That's it.
And on the islands, we do it island style. From the mountains to the ocean, wind went to the leeward side. Yeah, but on the islands, oh, it's breakfast with Bob. From the mountains to the ocean, wind went to the leeward side. From the mountains to the ocean, wind went to the leeward side.
Poncho Man! Yeah!
All right.
This was the first day of Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are brought to you by EAS Sports Nutrition, Hoka One One, Polar, Oscar Wellness, VeloFix, Four Seasons, Hualalai, TriathlonWorld.com. Check out all of our interviews. And with us, the 6-time Ironman World Champion, the gentleman who is an inductee into the Ironman Triathlon Hall of Fame, the legend, the grip, Mr. Mark Allen. How about a round of applause for our man right here? Yeah.
All right, thank you, everybody. That song, that's like better than a cup of coffee.
I
You know,
know,
what I
huh?
mean? I love that.
You know what's interesting, because you're so into the psychological side of this. A lot of times when we sit down to interview people who are racing, you don't have to worry about that, right? We're not racing. But the people who are
I
racing,
didn't tell you I'm racing this year?
there's day of race registration. You can sign up.
Yeah, next lifetime.
Yeah. So you can see people, they're in their mind, they're thinking, I got to go get my bike tuned out of this. And then Poncho starts playing, and it's like, all of a sudden, it's like a deep breath. It's like, okay, I can just relax for 15 minutes. It's not a big deal.
Well, you realize where you are. You're on the Big Island. This place is so beautiful. And,
Yeah.
you know, I always like to just take the first day I get here, I always go to a little spot out by the water where I can just kind of sit, feel the island,
Yeah.
look at the beauty, and you just go, this is someplace extremely special. I love it.
But you know, it's interesting because you didn't start out that way. This was a place that scared you. This was a place that when you first got off the plane, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to race in this? It took you a long time to come to grips with you had to become part of this island.
Yeah, it took me years. You know, in the first years that I came here, first one, 1982,
Yeah.
I got off the plane, walked down onto that tarmac, and I felt like Mike Tyson had just hit me in the gut, you know, because
Yeah.
it's hot, it's humid, the sun is beating down on you, that black lava is just emanating this heat, and I had that feeling like, how can I possibly do something called an Ironman in this environment? And it really took me years to be able to be out there on the race course, instead of looking at it as this horrendous place, to actually look out and go, oh my God, this is beautiful. This is my office. This is where, for 8 hours, I get to be the best I can possibly be.
Exactly. And as a coach now, coaching Timothy O'Donnell, who last year, first time on the podium, took 3rd place. And I remember talking to you afterwards. You were proudest of him for his performance was the fact that he wasn't scared of the moment. He was out on the bike. There was an opportunity to take the lead. He sees the lead. It wasn't like, that's not for me, that's for other guys. That's a big step for any athlete, right?
That's huge. You know, there's a lot of guys who have finished in the top 3, top 5, but they have kind of done it through attrition of the other folks ahead of them, but they never led the race. Tim led the race for a couple hours last year,
Yes.
and that's a very different perspective to see the Ironman from, and he had never seen it from that perspective for
Right.
that long, to be out in front and realize, I have what it takes to be the champion here. And there was a real paradigm shift in his mentality, in his mindset. Obviously last year, you know, he didn't quite hold it to the finish, but it's shaped how he has focused this year for sure.
Because before you were probably trying to convince him he could win this race. And then after last year, mentally, is he thinking, hey, there's no reason I can't win this race?
You know, I think he's always felt like he can win it,
Uh-huh.
but to be in that moment where it's more tangible. You know,
Right.
when you're in the lead, you know, the television crew is right in front of you. You're not getting the information because everybody's behind you. That's a very different place, because when you're in the lead of the Ironman, you're leading the entire sport. I mean, in that moment, you are the best in the world at what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And there's an energy in that that's just it's humbling, and I think he felt that last year for the first time for himself, and so he's carried that forward into what we've done with Mark Allen coaching with him this year in his preparation. So
How ready?
I am excited about Saturday. Let me just put it that way.
How ready is he?
As ready as anybody can be, you know, and I give that little disclaimer because
anything can happen. It's an open road. There's all sorts of stuff.
yeah,
Right?
you know, I mean, I won this race 6 times, and every time I was on the start line in the years that I was winning, I knew that I had a really good chance to win, but I also knew that I had to discover how that was going to happen on the race course on that day, because a lot of athletes get caught up in racing last year's race this year. planning how they're going to win last year's race this year, and this year's race is never going to be the same. Just as an example, it's not
Yes.
it's not Saturday yet, but the weather report said it's going to be a high of 79 degrees and overcast. That will be a completely different race if that's how it pans out than anything you have ever seen here at Ironman.
We've never had that.
We've never had anything
Even remotely.
within 5 or 10 degrees of that, and that would be like the cosmic convergence of everything perfect.
It changes, and it changes what athletes could do well and what athletes are going to have a hard time.
Absolutely, it'll change the race dynamic, the strategy. I have a few ideas in mind that I'm going to share with Timothy O'Donnell only, if that's the way it should.
There's
pan
nobody
out.
watching, Grip. There's
Yeah.
nobody here at all. Just share it right now. Come on now. No.
But yeah, it could be an amazing day, and if the weather is, it is such a factor in this race.
Yes.
Look at, let's say, some of the years that Laurie Bowden won, it was just absolutely horrendous. Some of the years Heather Fuhr won, absolutely horrendous. And on the cool years, very different types of athletes will win it. Cool.
Cool, meaning
70,
80, yeah.
79 and overcast. That's frigid here. They'll probably be putting on sweaters and stuff. I don't know,
Exactly.
but.
So you've, besides, how many athletes do you have racing here, by the way? I know because you have a lot of age groupers.
Yeah, I have about 10.
10 athletes racing, but you're also doing something fun. Talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, this year I was putting together some research for some polls that I'm conducting all this week. There's one a day that's going up.
Uh-huh.
Who will be the next person to win under 8:10 for the men? Will Mirinda Carfree go under 250 for the women? Who's the greatest age group athlete of all time? Those are on my Facebook page. But in that process, I was doing a lot of research about the history of racing at Ironman and in the sport. And these numbers here are something that I came up with, 1, 6, 21, infinity. And those numbers represent perhaps the greatest part of triathlon's legacy that I was able to discover in all the research that I did. Each one of those numbers represents something.
Ooh.
You can go to 1621 infinity, the word infinity spelled out, .com,
Really?
and give your answer of what you think
These numbers mean?
these 4 numbers mean. The contest is going to run through Sunday, the day after the race.
Okay.
And then I'm going to announce what those numbers represent. The legacy of a sport is not made by one athlete. It's the sum total of what we've all done together.
Mm-hmm.
And the legacy of, let's say, one athlete is not by one race, defined by one race. It's defined by a career. And so these numbers are an accumulation of a lot of different aspects.
Fascinating.
Any guesses yet?
No
Yeah.
idea.
Anyway,
yeah.
the winner of it, the first person to guess it, gets a free training weekend with me. I'll come out to wherever you live.
Really?
Train you for 2 days.
I better figure this out.
Yeah, and we have a lot of other great sponsored prizes that we're going to be adding in throughout the week. So if you have a guess, even if you have no idea if it's right, go on 1620 infinity spelled out .com.
1621 infinity.
1621infinity.com.
Okay.
And take a guess. The website will be up and ready to go in about an hour.
So when you look back at your 6 wins, obviously the win in '89 was so special because you've been trying for so long to finally beat that guy, and then on the best day he ever had, 18 minutes faster than Dave Scott had ever gone, you beat him, right? That was, and you guys went, 240 and 241 and 809 and 810, and that was very, very special. But to me, that last race, that 95 race, because you had taken the year off the year before, you were 37. Thomas Hellriegel was in a different zip code on the bike, and he still ran like a 256 or 258. It's not like the guy died in the run. You had to run a 242 to win that race. Is that one of the more satisfying wins for you?
Yeah, 89 was this incredible epic battle with one of the guys that I respect the most from the sport, Dave Scott. But 1995 was really the race that required the most of me on every level, physically, mentally, spiritually.
Yes.
It required everything that I'd learned in the sport, every ounce of preparation that I had done that year to pull it off. I was going into the race trying to do some impossible things. Nobody had won 6 straight Ironmans in 6 starts.
No.
No, Dave,
No.
Dave missed one of those.
Yes.
Nobody had ever won at age 37 at that
Nope.
time in history. And then when I came off the bike with a 13.5-minute gap, nobody had ever closed that kind of a gap to become the champion at that time. And so I had 3 levels of impossibility facing me. You couldn't Google, how do you win your 6th straight Ironman at age 37 with a 13.5-minute
In the most dramatic
gap?
way, yeah.
Against a guy who's 13 years younger than you.
Right.
And
Who's not dying? Who's having a good day.
who's having a good day. And somebody actually said, you got off the bike 13 and a half minutes behind. And in the first two, after the mile 2, you were 14 and a half minutes
Oh,
behind.
really?
So I'd actually lost time in the first couple miles, which I didn't realize that until about a year ago. But anyway, there were just 1,000 moments on that marathon where I wanted to quit, where I said, I can't do it. I don't have the answer. I'm too old. There's too much of a gap. He's too young. You know, I should have just stopped at 5. That would have been great. You know what I mean?
My condo's right there.
But I was out there, and so many people had helped me. You know, my family had helped me. My training partners had helped me. Brant Secunda, as I mentioned, helped me get my internal space in that right place so that I could be on this big island and say, thank you that I'm here. And partway through the marathon, a couple miles into it, I just got myself to be quiet. You know, when you're quiet, that's a very powerful place to race from. Because it doesn't matter if you win or lose. You can engage fully. And I got quiet and I realized, wow, you know, I am lucky to be out here. I'm 37. That guy's way ahead. But I'm going to give it absolutely everything I have. I don't know if it's going to be enough. But let me see if I can make up an inch or a second every step of this marathon. There's no easing into this race. I have to just go for it and see. And the time slowly chipped away. And then, as you all know, eventually at mile 23, I came up behind him, made that final pass in my Ironman career, and went on to win number 6. And it really was such a deep and powerful race for me that year. For all of those reasons, it was the first race that my son Mats was at.
Exactly.
And so to have him be there for that final victory was really something special as well.
Gripster, thanks as always for spending time. Always love chatting with you. Again, website 1621infinityspelledout.com.
.com.
Love it. And guess away, and you might have Mark Allen stopping by for the weekend to train you. I love that. Pancho Man, I'm a round of applause for our 6-time Ironman world champion. Pancho Man.
Yeah.
We do it all in style.
Woo!
From the mountain to the ocean, windward to the leeward side.
Sing it out, Pancho!
On the island, it's breakfast with Bob. Yeah. From the mountain to the ocean, windward to the leeward side.
We're grooving
From the
now.
mountain to the ocean, windward to the leeward side.
Woo! Pancho Man!
Pancho,
Wow.
Thank
Hello,
you.
everybody. Hello, Monday.